Many of us pro-choice people could see this happening as we march towards the handmaid's tale with forced birthers overturning Roe and criminalizing pregnancy. So this woman right here was accused of murder after losing her pregnancy. South Carolina woman now tells her story. This is very reminiscent of Brittany Watts. And you can't make me believe that there isn't an element of racism baked into these situations. But let's get back to the story. Amari Marsh had just finished her junior year at South Carolina State University in May 2023 when she received a text message from a law enforcement officer. Sorry it has taken this long for paperwork to come back, the officer wrote. But I finally have the final report and wanted to see if you and your boyfriend could meet me Wednesday afternoon for a follow-up. Marsh understood that the report was related to a pregnancy loss she'd experienced that March, she said. During her second trimester, Marsh said she unexpectedly gave birth in the middle of the night while on a toilet in her off campus apartment. She remembered screaming and panicking and said the bathroom was covered in blood. I couldn't breathe, said Marsh, now 23. The next day, when Marsh woke up in the hospital, she said a law enforcement officer asked her questions. Then, a few weeks later, she said she received a call saying she could collect her daughter's ashes. At that point, she said she didn't know she was being criminally investigated. Yet, 3 months after her loss, Marsh was charged with murder, homicide by child abuse. Law enforcement records show she spent 22 days at the Orangeburg Calhoun Regional Detention Center, where she was initially held without bond, facing 20 years to life in prison. This August, 13 months after she was released from jail to house arrest with an ankle monitor, Marsh was cleared by the grand jury. Her case will not proceed to trial. The fact that she had to spend 22 days in jail and was facing 20 years to life is galling and appalling. But we knew this was coming. This is what forced birthers are doing. And you know that they are not going to criminalize white mothers who have lost their children. They will treat them with some humanity. But look at what they're doing to this woman, or what they did to this woman. Her story raises questions about the state of reproductive rights in this country, disparities in healthcare, and pregnancy criminalization, especially for Black women like Marsh. More than 2 years after the U.S. Supreme Court issued its Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization decision, which allows states to outlaw abortion, the climate around these topics remains highly charged. Marsh's case also highlights what's at stake in November. 61% of voters want Congress to pass a federal law restoring a nationwide right to terminate a pregnancy, according to a recent poll by KFF, the Health Policy Research, Polling, and News organization that includes KFF Health News. These issues could shape who wins the White House and controls Congress, and will come to a head for voters in the 10 states where ballot initiatives about termination will be decided. This case shows how pregnancy loss is being criminalized around the country, said U.S. Representative James Clyburn, a Democrat and graduate of South Carolina State University, whose congressional district includes Orangeburg. This is not a slogan when we talk about this being an election about the restoration of our freedoms. I was scared. When Marsh took an at-home pregnancy test in November 2022, the positive results scared her. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to let my parents down, she said. I was in a state of shock. She didn't seek prenatal care, she said, because she kept having a period. She thought the pregnancy test might have been wrong. An incident report filed by the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office on the day she lost the pregnancy stated that in January 2023, Marsh made an appointment at Planned Parenthood Clinic in Columbia to take the Plan C pill, which would possibly cause a termination to occur. The report doesn't specify whether she took or even obtained the drug. During an interview at her parents' house, Marsh denied going to Planned Parenthood or taking medicine to induce termination. I have never been in trouble. I've never been pulled over. I've never been arrested, Marsh said. I've never even gotten written up in school. The fact that she has to say all this to prove that she's not a bad person, um, it's terrible because these things happen, but on like a certain type is weirdly being criminalized. She's like, I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. But nobody deserves this. Even somebody who has been pulled over, even somebody who was troubled in school. Nobody deserves. So I'm skipping some. It says on February 28th, 2023, Marsh said that she was experiencing abdominal pain that was way worse than regular menstrual cramps. She went to the emergency room, investigation records show, but left after several hours without being treated. Back at home, she said the pain grew worse. She returned to the hospital, this time by ambulance. Hospital staffers crowded around her, she said, and none of them explained what was happening to her. Bright lights shone in her face. I was scared. According to the sheriff's department report, hospital staffers told Marsh that she was pregnant and that a fetal heartbeat could be detected. Freaked out and confused, she chose to leave the hospital a second time, she said, and her pain has subsided. In the middle of the night, she said, the pain started again. She woke up, she recalled, feeling an intense urge to use the bathroom. And when I did, the child came. I screamed because I was scared because I didn't know what was going on. Her boyfriend at the time called 911. The emergency dispatcher kept telling me to take the baby out of the toilet, she recalled. I couldn't because I couldn't even keep myself together. The first medical responders detected signs of life and tried to perform life-saving measures as they headed to Regional Medical Center in Orangeburg, the incident report said. But at the hospital, Marsh learned that her infant, a girl, had not survived. So she did not handle herself well in an emergency because she was going through a lot of intense things, I'm totally sure. She said she couldn't keep myself together. And because of this, she was charged with murder. The following day, a sheriff's deputy told Marsh in her hospital room that the incident was under investigation, but said Marsh was currently not in trouble, according to the report. Marsh responded with that she does not feel as though she did anything wrong. More than 10 weeks later, nothing about the text messages she received from an officer in mid May implied that the follow up meeting was about the final report was urgent. Oh, it doesn't have to be Wednesday. It can be next week or another week, the officer wrote in exchange that Marsh shared with KFF Health News. I just have to meet with y'all in person before I can close the case out. I'm so sorry. No problem. I understand, Marsh wrote back. The top part that's cut off says she didn't tell her parents or get a lawyer. She says, I didn't think I needed one. Marsh arranged to meet the officer on June 2nd, 2023. During that meeting, she was arrested. Her boyfriend was not charged. Her father, Herman Marsh, a band director at a local public school in Orangeburg, thought it was a bad joke until reality set in. I told my wife, I said, we need to get an attorney now. Pregnancy criminalization. When Marsh lost her pregnancy on March 1st, 2023, women in South Carolina could still obtain a abortion until 20 weeks beyond fertilization or the gestational age of 22 weeks. Later that spring, South Carolina's Republican-controlled legislature passed a ban that prohibits providers from performing abortions after fetal cardiac activity can be detected, with some exceptions for rape, incest, or when a mother's life is in jeopardy. That law does not allow criminal penalties for women who seek or obtain terminations. Solicitor David Pascoe, a Democrat elected to South Carolina's first judicial circuit, whose office handled Marsh's prosecution, said the issues of termination and reproductive rights weren't relevant to this case. It had nothing to do with that. The arrest warrant alleges that not moving the infant from the toilet at the urging of the dispatcher was ultimately a proximate cause of her daughter's death. The warrant also cites the cause of death, respiratory complications due to premature delivery stemming from maternal chlamydia infection. Marsh says she was unaware of the infection until after the pregnancy loss. Marsh's case is a prime example of how pregnancy loss can become a criminal investigation very quickly. This case, like the Watts case, shows that losing a baby and not having the presence of mind to act well in an emergency can cost you your freedom. This woman was not prosecuted, but think about the fear and stress she went through because of these forced birthers and criminalizing women. Join the conversation and let me know what you think. Like, comment, share.